Yay! Happy Monday, everybody. Happy day to congregate and celebrate running.
All right.
Sure, why not?
Saying that now.
That's the intro this week. Welcome everyone to GingerRun Live episode number 150. I'm actually really excited about tonight's episode because it's different. The guests that we have on tonight have very unique stories, both from the same event, the Walt Disney World Marathon, Half Marathon, 5K, 10K, Dopey Challenge, Goofy Challenge, Churro Challenge. It's mine. I made it up. I like churros. That happened a couple of weeks ago. There was a big, I don't want to say snafu, but there was a cancellation of one of the races out there. And the two guests that we have on the show tonight had different but very awesome and empowering experiences out there. And there's a reason why I brought them both on, because they're badasses, and it's going to be cool to hear their unique stories. And I hope that it inspires you as much as they inspired me just a couple of weeks ago. So we're joined by two really awesome people, Lindsay, Starr, and Cheryl, Platz, and we're going to get to their stories in tonight's episode. Sit back, relax, everyone. Happy Monday. Grab your drink of choice. Let's get ready for Ginger Runner Live. Ginger Runner. Yay! What's up, everyone? Very excited.
I did this. Like, I don't know.
Yay! Maybe it's a good Monday. It is a good Monday.
It is.
Episode number 150.
You're getting up there.
I am. We're halfway to 300. Yeah, that's it.
Well, that's how the show.
That's how you do math. Really fun show tonight. Different than shows from previous weeks. We're bringing on real runners tonight. Not that elites aren't real runners or that kind of thing, but the stories that these runners have, my guests tonight, are unique and empowering and really fun. And I'm excited to hear both of them. Let me just introduce them. You can already see their faces, because anytime we have more than one guest, you can actually see their faces during the entire process.
I always like that.
I do too. I think it's fun, because then there's no hiding.
Yeah.
They're always on at some point. We are joined by Mr. Linzie Starr, aka Sharpie or Sharp Endurance. What's up, man?
Yay.
Hey. Good evening. How's everybody doing?
Good.
We're good.
How are you doing?
I'm great.
Fresh off some races. I mean, we're going to talk to Lindsay a little bit later in the show, but Lindsay, you race like every weekend. You do a couple half marathons. I keep seeing medals. Like, your medal collection must be enormous.
It's really unfortunate. I actually had to order another medal rack today, actually, because the 3 I have are completely full.
Of course they are. And
it's ridiculous. Like, who does this?
Well, you do. And I can't wait to talk to you about a lot of the medals that you just gathered on one weekend at the Walt Disney World full and half marathon and Dopey Challenge and stuff. My other guest, Cheryl Platz. What's up, Cheryl?
Yay.
Hi, everybody. So glad to be joining you today. Thanks for having me on the show, Ethan.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Kim, nice to meet you.
Thanks for being here.
Now, Cheryl and we go way back, like to my Seattle days. We did improv comedy back in Seattle for a long time. This is over a decade ago. And we've been Facebook friends for a long time. And obviously we're separated by, 1,500 miles or something. But she has a really unique, awesome story from the Walt Disney World full and half marathon, as does Lindsay. So tonight's episode is all about inspiration, empowerment, all revolved around that weekend where the Walt Disney World Marathon, Half Marathon, Dopey Challenge, all the challenges kind of got changed up because of weather. Basically, Mother Nature decided to throw a monkey wrench into everything, and both of our guests tonight had very unique and awesome stories. We're going to find out both of them. But before we get to that...
Hi. I was just going to actually say that I'm surprised you weren't registered for this race, because it seems like every race you are at, like a massive weird storm hits.
It's true.
That's like your curse.
That's thanks,
Were
babe.
you secretly signed up for this one and nobody knew?
I really appreciate you now empowering the curse by putting it out there. No, I was not there. I was not registered.
Okay.
But the Dopey Challenge is something I've wanted to do for a long time. It's just you have to save up for a year because it costs about as much as a house.
It's a little pricey.
It's pretty pricey. But of course, I have to introduce Kim.
I'm here, and as usual, you guys, I am in the chat room, and so if you guys have questions for the guests today, make sure you are asking them. I'll be checking throughout the show.
So yes, if you have questions, bring them on, and Kim, please interrupt me. We only have Cheryl for the first half of the show, so I want to make sure that we get right into this with Cheryl. So if you do have questions, make sure you ask them now, because we won't have Cheryl in the post show. And Kim, just jump in whenever you want.
Yes.
Okay, so Cheryl, kind of explain to us a bit of your training background and what drew you to the Walt Disney World Half. What's kind of your racing experience? Kind of set us up for what that weekend had for you.
Sure. So I did not grow up athletic. The fastest I ever ran in high school was 1 mile at 9:45, and it nearly killed me. And long story short, in 2010, I took a fall in a parking lot, shattered my kneecap into 5 pieces, and needed 2 screws and 2 years of physical therapy. And after that all happened, I kind of, when you hang out with physical therapists and trainers, there's just a lot of people chasing a lot of goals, and you start to think that maybe those goals could be your goals, even if your kneecap is in several pieces at the time. And so I kind of got it in my head that maybe I would try running at some point. And so in 2014 was my first 5K. I did the Seahawks 5K in Seattle. And I was like, 30 minutes and 32 seconds, which to me was like, what? And it didn't really hurt, which was great. And I loved my physical therapist. They were really fantastic. And so, you guys, you're all running enthusiasts. You kind of know how it goes. And I had 1 or 2 friends warn me, like, it's a little bit addictive. You might get into it. And it turns out I'm really goal oriented, and it kept me far more honest about going to the gym and doing these things. So I kept with 5Ks for a while. And after about a year of that, I wanted to try to register for the Disney World 10K because I'm a Disney nerd and I'm vacation club all the way. And it's like, that's a good way to bribe myself into trying a new distance.
Yeah.
By the time I got to signups that year, and this was last year's half marathon, by the time I got to sign up for the 10K, it was full. So it's like, I'll try the half. And I had like 9 months to train for that. So last year was my first half marathon in January at the Walt Disney World Half Marathon last year. Totally uneventful, except that I finished, and that was great. And I was like, oh, I kind of like this distance. It's okay. So another half at Disneyland, and I was going to do my 3rd half this trip. This was going to be my friend was getting married, so I figured, well, I'll do it while I'm out there. It's the same week. Great. I'll try for a personal best and try to break 2 hours and 30 minutes. Not an elite, did I mention?
None of us are. Like that's why I wanted you guys
Yeah.
on the show, is because we're all real runners. We're all real people that we can all celebrate each other and relate to each other. So yeah.
So yeah, that was me leading up to this weekend. So I've been training. I was trying really hard to, get myself down to like 11 minutes a mile and do the break 2 hours and 30 minutes, get a personal best. But and starting to pack for the race, the predictions for Saturday started to include rain. And so I spent like the whole week researching rain races and like so much body glide, which thank God, as it turns out.
Yeah.
And, and things and stuff and trash bags and packing the whole 9 yards. But and stop me if I'm going too fast on this, but fast forward to, I picked up my number and I'm at the Run Disney Expo and it's this huge, the number pickup is a football field, like a literal football field. And then there's another football field for the expo, essentially. And it's just, you pick up your number and there's just so much energy and there's so many other Disney nerds out there. So, and it's really inspiring the cross section of ages, genders, and physical abilities that go to the Disney races in particular. So you're in the middle of that. I'm like, yeah. But then they started sending out texts and emails and tweets saying, we are monitoring the weather situation. Please stay tuned to our social media accounts for further updates, which had never happened before. And it's like, yeah, okay, all right. I'm addicted to social media. That'll be fine. And then then they said tune in at 5 p.m. for another update. It's like, oh, okay. Oh, that sounds foreboding. This is the night before the half marathon. So, and the way Disney races work, I mean, a lot of marathons and half marathons are like this, but you had to be on the buses by 4 if you wanted to be. So you're getting up at like 2:30, and they started. So it's 5 p.m. the night before. You're carb loading if that's your thing, and they're like, it might be severe weather. Here are the conditions under which we'll get back to you at 7 p.m. And so I was running with Team Autism Speaks for this race. And so I was at the team dinner when they kind of made the 5 o'clock update, which was really non-committal, ate all the carbs. And then it was a buffet. That's what you do.
Yeah.
And I got back to my hotel room and they had said, tune in at 7 for the next update. And around 7 p.m. On Twitter was where I saw it first. They announced that they were making the decision to cancel the race. And so that's 25,000 runners who had, and many of them like me, had just filled up with carbs, nowhere to go. And they've just been told the thing you've been training for months doesn't exist anymore. And the conditions they said were like, if there was a high likelihood of a lightning strike within 3 miles, they would have had to, if there were any lightning strikes within 3 miles during the race, they would have had to cancel. And there's no shelter for 25,000 people. So they decided to cut it. I thought they'd wait longer, but they cut it at 7. And that was when the grief stage started. That was, I threw some tissue boxes around the room. I cried a little bit. You're very like in this, and you've committed to it, and you've done all the things, and it's cranky. I posted a bunch of stuff to social media, and then I just, because I was planning on going to sleep anyway, just kind of fell asleep for a couple hours, and then wasn't a very good sleep, so I kept checking social media, and they said, we're going to have some options for folks. We're going to give refunds in the option, a form of Disney gift cards, or and there might be some registrations for the marathon on Sunday, because it's a weekend of races. It's a 5K, 10K, half and full. So this was Friday night. There would be nothing Saturday, but Sunday was not canceled. But I'd never done any kind of marathon thing. Ever. Farthest I'd ever run was 14 miles. But I woke up right after they opened up marathon transfers. That was like 11:30 p.m. I woke my husband up. Do you think I'll die if I go on the marathon course? You know how stubborn I am. And I'm not going to just stop at the half. That's probably not going to happen. There's a different medal. I want it if I go. And he's like, he's very sleepy, because he's like, you should do it. So it was 11:30, and I did the transfer, and it was actually surprisingly seamless. I got to give it to them. Like, this has either happened before, or for active.com, or Disney had some kind of plan, because they had it set up. You didn't have to pay anything. You just put in your registration information, and they emailed you. You had to go and check in the next day.
Right.
People just showing up with their bibs to kind of keep the numbers under control. But I registered for it. So I had 24 hours notice, and then I ran a marathon.
Like, this is, I talked about this story. Cheryl doesn't know this, but I talked about this story a couple of weeks ago on air, where I didn't mention Cheryl's name or anything like that, but I was just like, man, this happened this weekend, and this is so awesome. So I see on Facebook that Cheryl posted, the race has been canceled, right? I don't know what to do. And then like 20 minutes later, or I guess a couple hours later, she posted, I signed up for the marathon. And I was like, yes, I jumped in there. I was like, you got to do it. Because this is awesome. This is someone who hasn't run longer than 14 miles ever. Had done a couple half marathons before, and came to this race, traveled all the way to Florida to run the half marathon, and then had a choice to whether, get another gift card back and spend it back at Disney, or, all these other options, which are, again, kind of sucky. But the fact that you were like, screw it, I'm doing the marathon, I was like, this is awesome.
I was either gonna mope in my room, or I was gonna do the thing. But and Ethan is a very good Facebook coach, by the way. He was so supportive and gave me some really good advice about things I wouldn't necessarily have occurred to me about making just the ramp of the caloric intake, and just taking the time, just like very supportive. Like I felt like after I saw your post, I'm like, yes. Yes.
Well, I mean, Cheryl and I hadn't talked probably, in years, just because, we've been following each other on Facebook and stuff. Like, it's been a long time. So this was my opportunity to, like, I'm jumping in, and I want to see this success story here, because I'm fully aware of what people go through in ultras and long races and first time race, all that stuff. There's a lot of mental things that happen that allow people to finish. And so as an outsider, I was like, oh, how cool would it be if Cheryl ran her first marathon and wasn't even thinking about it. So Cheryl, walk us through this marathon, because this has got to be, you toe the line of a race distance that you haven't ever contemplated running before. So what was that like? Go ahead, Kim, sorry.
Yeah, did you ever have a goal of running a full marathon? Was it something that was on your radar?
A lot of folks would ask that. My friends be like, oh, you're going to do a marathon? And I kept telling them, like, marathon is a crazy distance. And maybe like in 5 years, but right now I'm really happy doing halves. And I said that too many times, apparently, and the universe was like, ha! I thought it was something other people did. And I felt that way about some things in my life, like that I ended up doing. Like I was scared of them, or I thought that and running was a little bit like that too. It was something for other people. But then life kind of gave an opportunity. And so the problem with Sunday was it was winter weather. It was no longer raining, but it was 32 degrees when I walked out the door with the 15-mile-an-hour winds that put it at a 24-degree wind chill. And I didn't pack for that.
Neither.
Lindsay's like, yeah, me neither. No, thank you.
I live in LA. What the hell do I have for that kind of weather? That's insane.
You're right.
Luckily, I brought like long sleeves because it was supposed to be windy, and and I have my running compression sleeve stuff, but I had leg warmers, so I basically put on every running worthy piece of clothing I had in my. I did bring some extra pieces I didn't wear, but the put on the kit, and I was going to wear a trash bag to keep myself warm, and so I could throw it off on the side. I had brought a raincoat, and I didn't want to drag it for 26.2, but that my husband laughed because the rooms we were in were kind of like motel rooms on Disney property, and so you open the door and it's right outside. And he's like, you open the door 1 second past, you walk back in, you're like, nope. So I grabbed my coat and whatever else I could assemble to keep myself warm and headed out. Those first 2 hours, because it was like, you got there at 4, and I don't think I crossed the start line until about 6. Definitely questioning my life choices very, very hard. It was not favorite. It was very windy. And, the whole time I'm like, I was terrified of injury. I've been through like crippling leg injuries before, and I was a little worried. And they were very, I thought they were helping us, put us in the right mindset. They kept making announcements about how like, you guys are going to start running too fast because you don't want to stay warm. You need to pace yourselves, take
right.
it easy. Don't turn down the water when it's given to you. And, they're all common sense things, but marathon is not necessarily a common sense thing in itself. So it's really good to get those reminders when you're in that heightened state of everything.
Yeah, before we move into the race and stuff like that, we're getting lots of good questions here from the chat room. So I want to make sure Cheryl has a chance to answer some of those. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. This question from Kimosabity75. Cheryl, at what point during the race did you first regret running the 26.2, or did you regret that?
It was the first point was where I really, aside from the horrifying cold before the start line, which made me want to leave, once I had started running it, it was the 13.1 mark where I saw a lot of folks some folks who were registered for the half, registered for the marathon, and then stopped at 13.1, which is totally, valid. Disney didn't say you couldn't do that. Nothing says you could. And that meant they got to complete the race. They kind of paid for, they got some character experiences and stuff. And the 13.1 point was in Animal Kingdom. So it was super easy. Like you could literally, it was outside Expedition Everest. I could have gotten on a roller coaster immediately. And then I could have like casually taken the bus back and been done. So that was a hard point to like, if we pass this line, we're going to try to do this. But mile 17, I remember, was where it was like, hey guys, this is a lot of miles. Like a lot of them.
Let's do another question.
A question from Elena in the chat room for Cheryl. How was it mentally for you to double your distance just like that during a race?
It was tough, and I tell you what changed my life and kind of turned me into more of a long distance runner. It was last year at the expo. I saw Jeff Galloway talk. He's one of the big proponents of Run Walk Run, and I had never thought about running in that way before. Like I would stop to walk, but I never thought of it as an ongoing thing. And I tried that on my first half, and it worked really well for me. And I finished faster than I had trained. And he mentioned, and I saw it. And so I went and saw him speak again for a little bit on that Saturday, because I'm like, I just need a little boost of hearing Jeff speak again and get motivated. And just the reminder, part of it is that the counting. Like I don't use the little timer because it turns out me actually literally counting 60 to 90 seconds of running and 60 to 90 seconds of walking keeps my mind off all of the ridiculousness of what I'm doing. So there were a lot of points where it's like, this is just like when I crossed over to 9 miles left. I'm like, I'm excited because we're in single digits. That's the exciting thing. But just going back to the count, it was a physical challenge, but it was just as much mental. And I kept having to fall back. I just keep counting, and vary the counts if you need to, but just keep focused on the short-term goal. And I kept visualizing myself bursting into tears at the finish line. I knew that it would be a really emotional thing if I finished something like that. And it turned out that motivated me, the burst. So I'm like, okay, let's try to chase that image.
I think that actually fuels a lot of people, myself included. I love visualizing that experience at the finish line, and that helps get through some real dark times for sure. You have another question?
Sure. Yeah. We'll take, let's see, one from David in the chat room. Cheryl, any advice for first-time runners?
Well, a lot of my friends, I direct them over to that run, walk, run stuff, because a lot of my friends literally think that like it's a binary switch. Like once you start running, you have to keep running, or else they'll like disqualify you. And it's amazing what shifting perspective on that will do. And you can work. It's so flexible. You can run as long as you feel good, but be kind to yourself. Start easy, and it's just building up the miles. It's so super cliche, right? But like, the best results I've ever had are if I just keep building up the miles and tracking every week. I like, you get your app, track your miles, celebrate your victories every month with your total time, your total distance covered. Every mile you run is one you did when you wouldn't have otherwise, and no one can take that away from you.
I love this story. I love the fact that someone who's training for a half is like, screw it, I'm doing the full. Whatever happens, happens. For you, Cheryl, what was the most difficult part of running the marathon, and what was the best part?
Most difficult part, I think this was the first time that I ran into, this is the first time I've ever considered taking meds during a run. I definitely physically, my thighs, my upper legs, they really stiffened after mile 16 or 17. And that was, it felt heavy. And so that I think was both a fear. I was worried that I hadn't put in enough miles to understand whether that was just exhaustion or whether that was some kind of injury. So that was a tough, there was a calculated risk. I took a dose of acetaminophen and was like, I don't know. But at that point it had become more of me. I'm a stubborn asshole sometimes. I'm like, you know what? Nope. We're going to talk to your doctor before trying anything like this. I don't necessarily endorse it for other people. But the best part, it's the last two parks. Like the last two parks are jammed up next to each other, and so you run through MGM and you run through Epcot and you run through the boardwalk between them. And at that point, I knew I was, you're gonna finish. Like you might be limping, you might be hobbling if something happens, but we were within the 3 mile mark, and I'm like, that's the 5K mark is what I kind of use as my base training unit now. And so I'm like, you've got this, you can do this on any day, so just keep doing it. And that last run in very familiar territory and running through MGM, which I'd never run through before. Like there were parks you don't get to visit on the half that I got to see this time around from the backstage. And but I mean, really the best part was getting that medal. I remember seeing it in the expo on that Friday before 48 hours prior, when that was a thing I was never going to do. I'm like, that's a nice medal. I like that medal. I don't, it's a shame. Yeah, I didn't bring mine to work today, but yes.
I got you covered, Cheryl.
Yeah, very close up there. It's like, oh, it's classy. I like it. So, and Mickey was right there before the finish line, and I slowed myself down. I'm like, I'm not leaving. It's someone else was with him. I'm like, I'm getting a high five from Mickey before I cross the finish line. I don't care. This is about time.
I think it's awesome, and the question's kind of been dropped in the chat room, and I'm curious as well. Would you do it again if you had the same circumstances? Would you do it again, or would you stop at 13 and call it a day, or would you do it again, and would you run a marathon again, or beyond that?
I would do the same thing I did over again. And I have the benefit of knowing that I didn't die and that I didn't, it's easy for me to say that because I know I didn't get injured and I'm walking fine and I'm back at the gym and doing my runs. I'm only on 2 days a week. We'll get back up to 3 next week. But I absolutely like it's an experience no one can take, an achievement no one can take away, even though I was not. I mean, in case you were curious, my pace was 15 minutes a mile. I did stop for almost every character I saw because that was partly Ethan's advice is like, just take your time. And I needed that sometimes because adrenaline was pushing me faster than I knew was healthy. I was like getting split times of 13. I'm like, nope. But I think it's going to be a while before I do another marathon because the one thing I missed out on is, as someone who didn't grow up athletic, I was really looking forward to because where I was before, I literally last year's half marathon, I was the median finisher of the women. Like nice. Out of 22,000 women, like they gave you your finish number and like it was literally mathematically the median. And I was really looking forward to moving into the above average category, like solidly above average. And that's what I had been training to do. And I missed out on that part, like the starting out, and I had gotten a corral placement that was, time qualified. And I was really looking forward to that. And that's the goal that most motivates me is improving that for a while, like getting not elite at half marathons, but like really holding my own in halves. Absolutely. And then once I've done that and we've done the proper training, then we'll consider doing another marathon. But if I'm not convinced I could do 13 to 14 minute miles in the marathon, I will not do it again. It's a long time, you guys. Like it was 6 hours and 38 minutes is my finish time. That is so many minutes.
But honestly, it's just more smiles. Like you have more time to smile out there. And like you said, you stopped with all the characters. You enjoyed your marathon experience, even though you were not trained for it. And that's what, you still did it and you pushed through it. And it's freaking awesome.
I love your story.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's going to empower more people than someone like, I won. Right. That's amazing. That means that they trained really hard and like are really fast. But to be able to push through something that you never thought you ever in a million years would do. I'm totally inspired by it, Cheryl. I'm so stoked that you completed the marathon. You got your first marathon buckle. And you got your money's worth. Medal. What did I say? Buckle? Same thing. She can wear it around her.
I thought that was like a runner term that you were throwing around. I'm like, oh, buckles. Is that what we call it?
In like 100-mile distances, they have buckles. In this case, I'm like, this is your 100-mile. You just got a buckle. You can wear it around your waist. It doesn't matter.
The nice thing about Disney races is it's socially acceptable to just wear them around the parks while you're there. And
yes.
Like, oh, this? Oh, yes. Thanks for asking. So that's a fun bonus. And thank you for the encouragement. And it's funny, like most people who heard about it the day before it happened were encouraging. But there was one guy the morning of who was like, I don't know. When I told him my story, he was like, I think you should. Maybe you should stop at the half. But that almost made me more stubborn. I'm like, is that because I'm a girl? Or is it just things? I don't know. You know what? I'm going to finish. Boom. Like before that, I'd be like, I don't know, maybe it's no commitments. We could do the 13-1. You're talking to that guy at like 5 in the morning. I'm like, no,
screw it.
Do it. So that's, but thank you for the chance to share, and I think I definitely wasn't the only one who doubled this distance and encountered that. I don't know what their training stories were, but, and Disney, there were bumps along the way, sure. But they made their best effort to make right what had happened, and so I was appreciative of that. And marathons, guys, they're things that not just for other people, they're for you too.
We give you a wonderful round of applause, Cheryl. We know that you have to bounce. For those who may be watching that want to follow more with Cheryl's story, Cheryl, where can they find you on social media, like Twitter and stuff like that?
I'm on Facebook at the Cheryl Platz, and on Twitter and on Twitch, I am Muppet Aphrodite. Yes, like the Jim Henson Muppets and the Greek goddess. So I would love to talk to you on Twitter or to hang out with you, just talk more online. So keep building those miles, and it doesn't matter what your finish time is as long as you're pushing yourself in a healthy way and having a good time.
Lots of pizza and beer, right?
That's great advice.
That's great advice. Yeah. Thank you very much, Cheryl. We know that you got to bounce. Have a great evening. And
Thank
again,
you,
those watching live, go show Cheryl some love. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.
You got it. That's awesome. Again, I hope that empowers some people, because we face that in ultras and marathons all the time where you're like, I don't feel trained enough, or I don't feel like I can finish this, or you have all that doubt. But the reality is you really can't push through stuff. Obviously, if there's injury involved or anything like that, that's a different story. But in this case, I don't know. I really loved the story. I talked a bit about it a couple weeks ago, but it was nice to get Cheryl on so she could kind of rehash it. We have more because our guest now, Lindsay Starr, aka Sharp, aka Sharpie, aka Sharp Endurance, is here to talk about his experience, because I know yours is a bit different. You were in Walt Disney World for the same event, but on a bigger scale. Can you explain what brought you to Walt Disney World that weekend?
Sure. Besides the snacks,
always.
I mean, first and foremost, let's just be real. The food is amazing. But I was actually participating in the Dopey Challenge, aptly named because you are running all of the events all weekend long. So the 5K starts on Thursday, the 10K is on Friday, half marathon, or not in this case, was on Saturday, marathon, all of those, which means lots of early mornings.
Like really early mornings,
like really early, right? Every race starts at what time?
Really, really early. The only race that doesn't start early is the 5K, and that starts at 6 o'clock, where everything else starts at 5:30.
Oh my god!
Hey.
You still have to wake up at 2 in the morning, so whatever.
Right. You have to wake up super early because you have to catch buses and all that kind of thing, right?
I always tell people the hardest part about the Dopey Challenge is probably the waking up.
Yeah.
Things to your body, especially when you're from California and you're 3 different in time zones. So it really jacks with your diet. It jacks with your sleep patterns. So I remember the first time I did Dopey, my half marathon Saturday, I was literally delusional on that course. I was laughing at those things. This time, I don't know what actually happened, but it's all a blur now. But I think the hardest part is waking up, honestly. The miles are great as long as you're trained and you're good to go. You put that time and energy into training, you'll be fine. But waking up is the challenge if you're from someplace that's not on the East Coast.
So for Lindsay, I know that you, like I mentioned earlier in the show, you run a lot of races. You've done multiple distances, marathons, half marathons, even ultras and that kind of thing. So you know how to train, you know how to build up mileage. For this one, did you do anything different? Because you knew that you're going to be doing back to back races as opposed to training runs, or did you consider them training runs and just took them easy? What was different for you?
I actually had a really interesting second half of 2016. I actually had a weird bout of depression, so I wasn't running the way I wanted to run. It was just really hard to get up and log those miles. And I knew that it was going to have an impact on my endurance level and on my timing. So you chalk it up to the game, and it is what it is. For this particular challenge, I knew that my time was going to not be my best. I knew that I can mentally get through a marathon. I can mentally get through this challenge. I've done it before, so I let my mind take me through it. And focusing on my goals for 2017, that'll be a different story. But I elected to have the best time possible in Orlando. I stopped for all the characters. I laughed the entire way. A good friend of mine, Matthew, ran with me through the marathon and stuck with me. He's a 3:30 Boston qualifying marathoner. And we ran a 6:15 marathon. We drank Fireball on the course and just had a blast. It was amazing.
Yes, I
I
love
want
it.
to run with you guys next time.
Well, I mean, that's another reason why I really wanted to have Lindsay on the show. I've known Lindsay now for a couple of years. We ran the New York Marathon, I think it was 2 years ago, not 3, it was 2 years ago. So we got to run together and or at least spend that weekend together. He's even in the New York Marathon video that I did. There was a very brief moment. We got to hang out in New York City. It was hilarious. He's such a funny guy.
So much fun.
So like that was one thing that I knew Lindsay would bring to this experience was just the positive outlook. Like you were there to have as much fun as possible, right?
Right, absolutely. And I felt like I needed it. It wasn't about the time for me at all for once. And I say this to runners all the time, whether they ask me or they don't, it doesn't matter. I think a lot of times we as runners get focused on time and we don't enjoy the time we're having on the trails, on the roads, wherever we are. And that can at times distract and detract from your experience as a whole. And for me, I found myself falling into that rut. And I know I can run a half marathon. I know I can run a 50K. I know I can run a marathon. I've done these things. Great. But what am I taking away from it at the end of the day? How do I feel at the end of it? Of course, I feel accomplished, but I always like to feel, that extra, surge of adrenaline and happiness that, wow, I did that and I experienced this and I saw this and I saw this in a different perspective or a different light that maybe I hadn't seen before. So for me, going to Florida was all about having a good time. I knew I needed it mentally, and I took full advantage of all 48.6 miles and had the best time of my life. It was probably the most fun weekend I've had in a long time.
And I mean, that says a lot. It was the same sort of thing that Kim and I were kind of going through last summer too, where we were getting wrapped up in the races and that sort of thing. And we ended up having to kind of take a step back and go, well, what's really important? And it was, it took a long time to figure that out. And you're absolutely right. You're hitting it on the money. Sometimes it is just about having fun. As much as you are setting personal goals and like, oh, I really want to finish my first blank, or I really need to do this or that sort of thing. Sometimes it's just about doing what you need to do to make yourself happy.
Right.
And part of your story from that weekend, which I like following you from afar, was really awesome. You ran into the same hiccup that Cheryl did with the weather on Saturday. So what was your experience like running into that? Like, did you get the email the night before and were you disappointed, or was the brain ticking like I'm coming up with ideas?
So I got the same notifications Cheryl did, and I was texting other friends that were with me that weekend. And we were like, okay, so what do we do? When it got canceled, I'm not gonna lie, I was not disappointed. I was thrilled, because the first thing that came to my mind is, I get to sleep in. This is amazing.
Yes.
So I did that, and I didn't sleep in very long. I got like 3 extra hours of sleep, which made the world of difference for me. But before I even went to sleep, I made the decision that I was going to run my 13.1 miles anyway. And I put it out in the universe. I put it out on social, on Instagram and Twitter. I said, so weather be damned, as long as there's no lightning in the area, because it was passing overnight. So they saw the system coming in at about 7, 8 o'clock. They've been tracking it all day. There was lightning strikes at about 11 o'clock Friday night, and they went over until like 4 o'clock. So there was no way that race was happening. Just wasn't safe. So I said, so about 8, 9 o'clock, the system should be at least gone. So I feel safe running around Hourglass Lake, which is where I was staying at the Pop Century Resort. So I said, I'm just going to go run that loop 13. Oh, it's upside down.
That's my fault. The photo is upside down, but Lindsay's great in it.
It works. I look fantastic anyway. But anyways, So that loop that you're actually looking at is actually about a mile in diameter. So it makes for a really great half marathon. I went out there, and to my surprise, there were a ton of other runners already out there starting their morning. One good thing about the community of runners is we don't take no for an answer if we don't have to. And people like to earn their medals, and they like to earn, that, hey, I pushed through something anyway, and this medal means something. And it may not have been the official race, but we sure as hell made it an official race. People in their hotel rooms were coming outside and cheering us on with their signs, and they were lined up around the lake all the way around. So there was never a moment where you were bored. And they were enthusiastic the entire time I was out there. It was great to watch. Some people were out there with aid stations. So if they were going to offer snacks and things on course, they had they brought them out to like this bench, like right by Millennium Bridge, which connects those two hotels together. And they were out there with food and water and snackage, which was my favorite. And they were like, what do you need? We're here for you. We have towels if you're too wet. Like, what do you need? We got you covered. And they were out there even after I was done. I ran my race in about 2:28, even with a brief hiatus, because there was a big system that came through, and I was like, no, this is too much. I'm gonna get out of this.
Yeah.
But and there was even, I think I missed it, there was a small child out there with their parents, and they dressed him up like Stitch, so he became a character stop, and a lot of people stopped to like take pictures with him. It was the coolest thing I'd ever heard. So I told people after that experience, this was the most fun half marathon I've ever run in my entire life. It was so much fun. The people out there were just amazing. The volunteers that came out were just there. They had no reason to be there. They were probably out there because we were making too much noise running around the hotel. Yeah. But we got our miles in, and it was great. It was so cool. There's a live video on my Instagram that I took, and I posted of all the spectators just lined up, and they're cheering as loud as possible, and I'm not even egging them on to do so. So it was just really, really cool. It was awesome.
So in your case, in this experience, this is like kind of an impromptu half marathon. You were not the only one out there. Had everyone like, was there some sort of forum or something where people were talking like, hey, let's all do this at this place? Or was it just kind of like everyone just started to run around this lake?
A little bit of both. So
I think we kind of lost you a little bit. Sorry, you want to start over, Lindsay? I think we kind of lost. We lost a little bit of the video, but can you hear us? Okay. Yeah, I think we lost.
You there?
Yeah, we can hear you in and out. So if you are near a wireless router, if you could get closer to it, because I think we got a little bit of internet shift there. I think Lindsay's on the move.
We're running. We're running through the house.
Running through the house. Lindsay's on the move.
My metal's tiny.
Oh.
This room is way dark though, so sorry.
That's okay. As long as we can hear you. This definitely audio is important to us for the podcast. So trust that Lindsay's there, guys. I think we're kind of lost him again. Maybe what we'll do, Lindsay, is... Are you closer? I think what we might do is, Lindsay, if you want to use your phone, if you can use your smartphone, we can bring you back in. Yeah, okay. Oh. I think he's hanging up. We're going to just try it again. I had a feeling that was going to happen only because it was breaking in and out a little bit there.
A little bit, yeah.
But I'm really curious to know if it was like everyone talked about it happening, or if it was just...
Or if it just happened.
And I think it was just kind of impromptu like that. I think most people saw other people running and then started doing it as well, because it's his Instagram live. He does a lot of really great Instagram daily lives and stuff like that. It was fantastic because he's like, hey, I'm going to start my half marathon now. And then he went outside and there's other people running around this lake. And it's just like, how cool is that? How cool is that people are like, screw it. They're canceling the race. We're going to make our own. I think it's amazing.
I think that was one of my favorite things about that weekend, that people just
did it themselves.
Yeah.
I understand that a race has to be canceled for weather. It makes perfect sense, especially something like the Walt Disney World. Anything that's involving that many people in some sort of theme park or a general area like that gets storms that roll through. That makes sense. In ultras they'd be like,
you're fine.
Yeah, unless the mountain all of a sudden erupts because you didn't know it was a volcano. Even then they might run the ultra, but they'll usually do it no matter what. But sometimes you're in a condition that you're like, it should have been canceled or whatever.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with lightning and thunder in Florida, and there's not a lot of mountains or anything to take the lightning, I think that's important. I just really like the impromptu thing. There we go. I think we got him back. Lindsay?
Hi.
Hey!
Awesome. So we'll pick up right where we left off. We were just talking briefly about how awesome it was. Was it impromptu? Like everyone just kind of showed up, or was it talked about beforehand?
I think it was both. So there's lots of forums on Facebook where people join and talk about Run Disney races. There's a ton of them. And I think a lot of people just made up their own minds that, screw it, I'm going to go run anyway. And it wasn't just at my hotel. I heard it was going on at Coronado Springs, at the Boardwalk, at Disney Springs. It was all over the resort. So a lot of people probably had the same idea. I think it was more of like a 60% of people wanted to earn their medal. And 40% of people probably found the information on those forums and whatnot.
So awesome. Go ahead, babe.
And there's a question in the chat room. I lost it in my feed here. The question was, did they give out medals?
Yeah, how did the medal thing work? Because obviously, some people weren't running an actual sanctioned half. How did that work?
So like I already told people, what was Run Disney going to do with 25,000 half marathon medals? So if you wanted your medal as a half marathoner, you could go and pick it up. They actually made you go to the ESPN Wide World of Sports complex, which is where a packet pickup is. And when you went there, this is just for half marathoners, by the way, you could pick up your medal. You pick up your medal, you also get one of those 4 options that Cheryl was talking about in terms of refunds with Disney gift cards, race transfers, things like that. So they handled all of that at the same time. If you were a Goofy or a Dopey Challenge participant, you got your half marathon medal at the Marathon Fit.
Got it. I think we lost you a little bit.
What
was the end of that sentence? What was the end of the sentence?
Oh, there you are.
You just lost the end of the sentence there.
Okay. If you were a Goofy or a Dopey Challenge participant, you got your half marathon medal at the finish line.
Got it.
Of the marathon.
Got it. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I was curious about that too. Like, that's 25,000 medals that have dates and everything on them. I can't imagine it's like off to the garbage. I mean,
Right.
You other than melting them down, there's nothing you can do with those. I think this is really awesome, dude. What would you think was your favorite part of the weekend? Would it have been this half marathon, the kind of the impromptu half marathon, or was there what else happened?
Without question. Without question, this was the highlight for me. It was incredible. It was amazing. And it wasn't even just, getting to run, on your own. It was seeing everybody show up and seeing everybody be out there running for the same reason and inspiring one another and cheering on one another. Like, that's what the running community is about. It was the coolest thing I probably had ever seen. It was so cool.
I loved watching it, your Instagram videos and all that kind of thing as it was unfolding was like, man, this is what the running community is about. Yep. Supporting each other, people out there who maybe are running the race the next day or finished the race the day before, supporting those who wanted to do something unique and different. And I don't know, I really like this story, Lindsay, because you and it sounds like a lot of other people decided to do something about unfortunate circumstances. Yeah. Like we can either sit in our hotel rooms or go to the park and sulk. You and Cheryl both were like, nah, we're doing our own thing. We're either going to run our own half marathon around this lake, or we're going to run the marathon tomorrow as our first marathon. That's why I'm so you guys are awesome. That's why I was excited to have you guys on the show tonight, because it really is an awesome thing. So you did finish. You got the whole Dopey challenge done. You showed up the next day. You ran the full marathon. That's it. Yay. Right there. Yeah. Lindsay Starr with the Dopey challenge. Not your first one.
No, my second. And it's
second.
Interesting because I said I'd never do it again. That was a lie. And I'm signed up for next year already too. What the hell?
I'm so jealous. It's something that Kim and I have wanted to do for a long time, because it's a good weekend of 48.6 miles, right? 48.3, 48.2.
You got 48.6.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's what it says, 48.6.
Which is a monster weekend. I mean, it's road running, right? So it also takes its toll on you and all that kind of thing. Would you have any advice for anyone looking to do this?
Yes, lots of it. Rest. Lay down and do not go and close up the parks every single night. You will screw yourself, and it is a very, very bad idea. Lay down and go to bed. Hydrate frequently and often. Your muscles need it. Relax and chill.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Biggest points. And the third is just have a good time.
Yeah. So I think we lost
it's Disney. You want to have a good time.
Good time.
Oh,
yeah.
Did I? What
it's
the
okay.
hell's going on?
It's okay. We got you. We got you there towards the end. It was definitely about having a good time, and I think that's what we see in all your photos and all your race experiences and stuff. I know that we have a question from the live chat room. Go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, there's a question from Scout Phillips in the chat room. Where are we here? What about the Disney run specifically continues to draw you back?
Yeah, great question.
What keeps drawing me back?
Yeah, to Disney
specific runs.
That's a damn good question. First, I kind of fell in love with running at Disney. It was not my first half marathon. It was actually my third. And it was here at Disneyland. And there was something about the atmosphere there that was so incredible that it just flipped a switch in my brain. And I was like, this is what I love about running. Like, this is fun. It was the community. It was how it was structured. And Run Disney is really a place where anybody can be a runner. Even if you're walking in your back of the pack, it doesn't matter. They throw confetti for the last person that comes across the finish line, just like the winner. And everybody there can try something out. They can, they can be who they. You don't have to be, a sub 130 half marathoner. You can run a half in 3:30 and still finish, and that's okay. And you can work up to those faster paces and those further distances. It's a great training ground, and it's just a lot of fun. Yeah, it's expensive as hell. I get it. I know. Trust me. But for the experience that I have and the people that I've met through Disney and the people that I continue to meet and enjoy through Disney, that's all worth it to me. My first marathon was the Walt Disney World Marathon, and I ran it with 9 complete strangers I met on Twitter, literally. And we've been best friends ever since. So it's things like that keep drawing me back. It's about the experiences. Damn the miles. You can run miles anywhere. But Disney has something really, really special. And I think that can be said for a lot of different subgroups in the running community. Ultra running for one of those as well. Met some great people through ultra running too. So you make it your own. It's a really cool place, and it's a really cool experience. I'm trying to get all teary-eyed. People can see me.
It's one thing that drew us to that race too. It was
my first half marathon. And one of the reasons why I chose it is because I knew that there would be such a wide variety of people taking part in the day, and that kind of took pressure off me, and I was just able to relax and have fun. And I'll never regret that being my first half marathon.
Yeah, it cost us an arm and a leg, but you leave that experience going, that's actually really cool.
Yeah.
You know, the people are really kind, and it's always very welcoming and that sort of thing. People of all levels, and that's why I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah.
All levels. Even my mom has already been talking to me this year about she wants to do her first half. She's like, I would really like to do a half marathon. The first one that pops to my mind was Disney, because they just they take care of everyone, no matter your ability or time. You know, like they want everyone to finish. It doesn't matter if you're the slowest person on earth or whatever. They want you to get it done, which I think is really cool. We're going to kind of wrap up the main show, but we are going to have Lindsay in our post show. Yes. There's still some good residual questions in here for Lindsay regarding favorite ride at Disney and all that good stuff, because I feel like we're Disney fans and Lindsay's a Disney fan, so we can definitely chat long time for that. So for those of you who would like to join us in the post show, it is a Patreon crew post show. So if you have not already, consider joining us on Patreon, patreon.com/thegingerrunner. It basically is a website that helps keep this whole channel alive. It is, this is our full-time job, and that is the only way that we get paid. So consider it's $1 a month at the lowest level and goes up from there. But you also get some unique stuff on the back end, including a post show with Mr. Lindsay Starr and other guests of the show, and myself and Kim every single week. So we'll be doing that here just after the main show ends. We'll be jumping over into the Patreon crew post show, and that link is already posted for those of you who are Patreon supporters. Before we get into that, I do have the quickie question quiz, which since Lindsay is a first-time guest on the show, but also no stranger to the show. He is a fantastic runner. Again, I've been friends with him for a long time, and he's just fun and fantastic to follow on social media. He will always, if you're lacking any motivation, follow Lindsay, because he's always talking about getting out for that run today, even though he didn't want to, or that kind of thing. Always good daily inspiration. So before we even get to the quickie question quiz with Lindsay, where can people find you, Lindsay, on social media?
My blog is sharpendurance.com, and on all the social media things at sharpendurance.
Do it. Go show him some love. Thank him for being on the show, as with Cheryl, because I think tonight's show was really fun. I'm glad to hear these kinds of stories. Now, Lindsay, this is what we do on the show at the end with new guests, first-time guests. It's a list of like 10-ish questions, very easy. We're going to rapid fire through them. Just say the first answer that comes to your mind. Again, it's very easy. You let me know when you're ready, and we will just get this thing started.
Let's do it.
What was your very first race?
OC Half Marathon in 2012.
Favorite running movie?
I don't know that I have one.
Trails or road? I know you do both.
Trails.
Favorite place to run right now?
My treadmill, because it's raining.
What is a bucket list race?
London, and I'm going in April.
Woo! Yay! Guilty pleasure TV show.
Oh, God.
I knew this would be a good one for you.
Don't judge me.
That's great. Favorite pre-race meal?
Food. Next.
Favorite post-race indulgence?
Oh, God. See, that changes so often. It could be anything from like a double cheeseburger to literally just a milkshake. It just depends on the distance in the race.
Let's say that. What was your favorite post-race indulgence at the Disney full marathon?
Sushi. I went to Morimoto, Asia, and ate $60 worth of sushi by myself like a maniac.
Damn, that sounds good. And finally, what are your current running kicks? What are you running in right now?
My Skechers Performance Stratas right now. I'm kind of digging those right now. Nice.
I like the uppers in those. That's it. Thank you, Lindsay. Yeah.
Woo!
And of course, thank you to Cheryl as well for jumping in for the first half of the show. As I mentioned, Lindsay will be joining us very quickly right after the show ends for the Patreon crew post show. So consider joining. That is it for tonight's episode, number 150. Happy Monday. I'm so glad you guys were able to tune in live tonight. Next week, We were talking with him this last week.
Mm-hmm.
He's in Antarctica right now. Mr. Michael Wardian will hopefully be on the show next week. We're working on scheduling because his travel right now is insane.
It's a little crazy. Yeah.
He basically, we were talking last week. Michael Wardian is on the seven marathons in 7 days on 7 continents, but he is going for the world record for the fastest cumulative time of these events. And today he ran the Antarctic marathon and won it. It was freezing, sub-zero, and he ran with no gloves and no face mask or anything. It's admirable. But we've been talking last week about getting him on the show tonight. He was going to try to call from Antarctica tonight. He emailed a couple hours ago. I was like, hey, I kind of have email access. Maybe this can still work. I basically said, I don't trust the internet in Antarctica as much as I'd love to have him on the show tonight. I just think that would have been a tech fail, probably on my end, not because of Wardian. So we're going to try to get him on next week. I can't wait to talk to him about this. 7 and 7 and 7. It's just like monstrous. So look forward to that next week, and look forward to just a couple minutes from now when we have Lindsay Starr for some fun post-show action. And if you are on Patreon, we'll see you over there. The link has already been posted over there, and this should be a lot of fun. Thanks, everybody.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. We'll see you next week. Bye. Bye. Ginger Runner.